Shalom and welcome once again to Treasures of the Torah. I'm Pastor Matt McEwen. This week, the Torah portion is Pinchas. This is an exciting Torah portion with intrigue and even violence, of boldness and standing up for what is right and stopping a plague among the people. But today, I'm not really going to focus on the namesake of this Torah portion of Pinchas himself, but rather on some daughters, the daughters specifically of Selachad. This situation means a lot to me as a father because I do have a son, but I have two daughters. And this, of course, is the petition that is brought by these five daughters to Moses about how unfair it was that they could not receive their father's inheritance and that his name would be erased, basically, because he had no male heir. Now, this is interesting because I enjoy how these women approach Moses. They're not just respectful, but they bring their case and they are bold and they are brave. And Moses agrees. This is the will of the Lord, that, okay, if there's not a son, well, then a daughter can be the heir. But there is this question that arises in the commentaries and a bit of a question of identity. Who is their father and why or how did he die? And one of the theories that is brought down by the rabbis is that their father was actually the person who was gathering wood on Shabbat, on that second Shabbat. Now, if you remember a few weeks ago in the Torah portion, we learned of this rabbinic theory that the person who was gathering sticks on Shabbat did so even after having been warned to stop. So he willingly went ahead and broke this rule. And we read there in that commentary a few weeks back that the rabbis believe that this was an act of mesirut nefesh, of self-sacrifice, that after the bad report of the spies, after learning that they would not enter the promised land in that generation, the people thought, well, they were absolved from keeping the Torah, that it didn't matter anymore. They blew it, and so there's no point in trying to keep the Torah anymore. And what this man did, knowing that he would perish, was lay down his life for the nation of Israel so that they would see the severity, so that they would see the seriousness with which Hashem looked at these commandments, how he looked at the Torah, and specifically with regard to Shabbat. And so one theory is this man is the father of these five daughters. Let me read to you this. This comes from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The daughters of Selachad wish to strengthen their argument. Why should the name of our father be eliminated from those receiving a portion in the land? By stressing that their father was not guilty of his generation spurning the land. This gives credence to this theory that he was the wood gatherer, because they make a case that their father is not one who went along with the bad report, that this man did not share in that generation's sin. Because if in fact he is the wood gatherer, then his death precedes the spies and the bad report. Let me continue. According to the opinion that he was the wood gatherer, he died many months before the spies' mission. According to the Talmud, the incident of the wood gatherer occurred on the second Shabbat after the giving of the Torah. And if he was one of the mountain stormers, there were a group of men that together went and tried to take the land, even though God said they wouldn't do it in that generation, and they tried by force to make this happen, and they died as well. But if he was one of these mountain stormers, their sin was that they so deeply regretted falling prey to the evil spies' report that they erred in the other direction. And they lost their lives in the effort to enter the land in violation of the divine decree. If God says, out of punishment, you're not entering in this generation, well, then you're not going to do it. You don't just by force of your own will get to decide that you're going to take the land by force if God has says not to do it. You can't do it. You shall not do it. I won't allow it. I think it probably, at least in my opinion, is more it's probably more of a reality that he was this wood gatherer, that he was gathering the sticks on the Shabbat. And I think this is a valid argument, especially if it's true that this man did this as a way of Mesirut Nefesh. Then why should his family be punished by his name being eliminated, by his family not receiving their portion of the land? So as a father of daughters, I'm proud of these ladies that did that made their case, and the Lord granted that, and Moses decreed it. So if a man has no son, that a daughter can be his heir. It's a beautiful story all the way around. If you'd like to study with me at Yeshivat Shuvu, where I study and where I graduated, you can go to shuvu.tv and fill out an application there, go through the interview process, and become a part of the largest online Messianic Jewish yeshiva in the world. And we're still growing. Keep us in prayer. Our prayer for you this week is that you would be safe, that you would fight for what is right, like these daughters, and that you would be bold in the Lord. Shabbat Shalom.